Everyone, hi. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks for inviting me along, and brilliant to see everyone here. Thank you very much for coming to listen to me. I guess I've got some big shoes to fill from the sounds of things. Sounds like you guys are having a good time with it. Um, yeah, so finding your why. Something I've been quite passionate about over the last 9, 10 months, as Charlie and Ryan can definitely vouch for, because I've voiced it to them many times. And I think it's quite relevant to probably most people in the room. Like, I mean, I'm 38 now, and I'm only just starting to understand it myself properly. And I think it's valid in so many different ways, especially in the current climate, in the modern age where we are with this pandemic and everybody changing jobs and changing environment that they work in, changing where you study. I think understanding yourself first and foremost is kind of the thing that really leads you forward. So I'm going to give you a quick background to myself. I normally take a full 15 minutes to go through all of that, just to be fair, but I'll try and summarize really nicely. So started off 20 years ago with a degree in software engineering. I wanted to be in web development. You didn't get web development degrees back then. That's how old I am. Came out of university at the same time the dot-com bubble burst. So there was no jobs in IT, there was no jobs in software engineering unless I wanted to do contracting work. And I had a mortgage at the time, so I couldn't. Yes, I had a mortgage at 21. I was also divorced at 21. So there you go. Lots of life lessons to be learned. So I was working in a call center at the time, realized simultaneously that whilst there was no jobs in software engineering, I also wanted to go into work with people because I found a big passion for leading people, leading teams, and wanting to be of a more of a management capacity with where I was at. And simultaneously met my other half at the call center, realized that was probably a bad decision to work together any longer. So I left there. Otherwise, I'd probably still be in call center environment now, and moved into retail. So put my degree to some use, at least by enrolling on a graduate program, and spent the following 15 years working for Lidl. Discount retail is an interesting horse because if you've got ambition, you've got a bit of enthusiasm about what you're doing, and you've got a passion for it, then you can pretty much get yourself across the whole of the retail environment. And I think that's true of a lot of retailers. That certainly the bigger ones like Tesco's, Lidl, Aldi, Walmart, Asda, whoever. People think that you can only go there if you're going to stack shelves. It's not true. There's scope for lots of other things, and I've worked across kind of supply chain, logistics, distribution, KPI analytics and support, and loss prevention. There's some of the things that I've done in that 15 years. And through the whole of that time, I've got 10 years volunteer police officer in the middle of that somewhere, all of that time working in retail. I think I sold kitchens for 6 weeks. Well, I say I sold kitchens, tried to sell kitchens for 6 weeks, but found I had too much of a conscience to do it. And then sort of came to the end of all of that. I've got a 3-year-old son now. I was looking for something different to do. I wanted to get into learning and development because, again, passion for helping people, inspire people, and wanting to help them do something better with their lives. And I missed out on that opportunity a little. And that was kind of a sticking moment for me because I thought, well, I need to get out and do something else. What can I do? And I was applying for other store management roles, other retail roles. And somewhere in the middle of it all, I found Jimmy, who's now my CEO. Or he found me. I'm not quite sure which way around it was, to be fair. I suspect he found me. We got chatting. He was interested in what I'd done before. He got me as a person. We got on really well together. And in 6 weeks, he managed to convince me to leave a role that I'd done for 15 years to go and work at a startup in tech. Which when I've got a 3-year-old and a mortgage, that was a big jump for me. And I spent the next 4 weeks justifying it to my good missus. But ultimately has panned out to be the best thing that I've done in my whole career. When I did that, I kind of realized that I'd spent 15 years wondering where everything was going. I wanted to know why, I felt like a jack of all trades. I felt like I'd been there and done everything, but wasn't really a specialist in any one thing, if that makes sense. I was a generalist. I could do lots of different things, but I didn't really tick enough boxes to get into a specialist position, which frustrated me massively. I've tried to figure out for the longest time how working in the police, working in the call center, selling kitchens, software engineering degree, how on earth does it all fit together? And in terms of what the actual jobs were and what the functions were, they don't. Quite honestly, they don't. Interestingly, now that I'm doing the job that I'm doing, which is kind of helping an analytics firm up their retail proposition, build it from scratch, from everything from clients to what the solutions might be, to what the challenges in the market are, what our USP is. All of those roles now set me in really good stead for what I do, because I can talk retail to the retail clients. I can talk developer to the developer team. I can lead teams within the business. I can help with learning and development. I can coach people. I can facilitate conversations. I'm confident with speaking to large numbers of people, and I can get our message and our brand out there, which is interesting. It's nice to see it all fit together. And, that's definitely something that makes me really happy. But through it all, still nagging in the back of my mind was, but why? Like, why does it all work? Why does this job feel right? Like, it's got nothing in common with what I've done before, yet it still feels right. There's something underneath it all that is really powerful, and I just couldn't get to it. So, while I've been doing this job, obviously I'm working from home now, and I was spending time sort of walking on a morning as part of my fitness regime, but also kind of getting my head in the game, because I've used to 15 years of traveling to work, traveling home from work, and having that time to think and analyze the day before, analyze what's coming ahead. And so for me, I've kind of set that in part of my routine is, I try and most days go for a walk on a morning, try and go for a walk on an evening, do the same thinking in my head and separate my home life from work, and listening to audio books as I do it. And so I've always been a big fan of Simon Sinek, right? You've all seen the TED Talk, the golden circle, start with why, all this sort of thing. And I've always said it's brilliant, but in that book, he doesn't give you how to get your why, right? It's brilliant understanding that there's this why out there, but what's my why? Like, I want to earn money, I've got a family, I want to support my family. And what I then came across was the follow-up book, which was Find Your Why, Finding Your Why. And I'm fortunate that after kind of working on my self-awareness for as long as I have, as a leader in retail, you've got to be very self-critical, you've got to be self-aware, you've got to understand how others see you, you've got to understand how you're positioning yourself to other people, understand how you kind of interact with other people in that. So I've always been quite aware of what I mean to other people, what I do with other people, but I couldn't gel it all together. And what Find Your Why did for me was it really brought it to life, because it's a step-by-step guide on how you can discover it, right? So start with why. It gives you the idea that there is a why out there and what it might do for you, why it's powerful. Finding Your Why guides you through the steps where you can start to explore that for yourself. And do I think that book's necessary? It's useful. I don't think it's necessary. I think everybody can kind of come to that understanding themselves. But why is it important for majority of us to come to that understanding before I get to what mine is? So when I was looking at leaving Lidl, when I was actively looking for a new job, which I guess kind of a lot of you guys will be in that same position. You're not necessarily leaving somewhere, but you're looking for who you want to work for, what you want to do. I've seen a lot of people talking on LinkedIn about finding the right boss, right? And when you read it on LinkedIn, it's like, oh yeah, everybody's a LinkedIn coach. This is brilliant. Yeah, great. But realistically, in real life, this doesn't happen. I need a job. I need money. I need to pay my bills. There's a job. I'm going to go and do it. That's the way life works, right? No, actually, it doesn't. You can utilize tools like LinkedIn to find those people that you want to work for. The opportunities are there for you now, with the current climate, with social media, with remote working, with work from home. There are so many virtual roles going. There are so many work from home roles going, that you can actually discover people on LinkedIn who are of a similar sort of mindset and temperament to yourself. You can start to use that LinkedIn tool or other social media to find line managers or people advertising for roles, businesses even that align with what's important to you. And if I'd known more about why I do what I do, then I would have been a lot more strategic about who I applied for, because no matter what the role is, if you can get yourself to the point of an interview by hard work, working behind the scenes, sort of meeting people from the business, getting to know more about the business, doing your research and what have you, then your passion comes out in that interview. And that's what happened with me and Jimmy, right? I didn't particularly go looking for Jimmy. He was all over my LinkedIn feed because he's very active on LinkedIn. Me and him got talking. But when we spoke, his passion and my passion matched, right? And that was really, really powerful. I've never had that before. I've worked for a lot of good line managers. I've worked for a lot of good leaders, a lot of good coaches, but I've never had that connection with my line manager or the leader of the business. And it was because our whys are aligned, the business whys aligned, his whys aligned, and my why is aligned. And if I'd known that, then I'd have been looking for the matching why, not for the role. And I think that's important for everyone, especially coming out of university in the current age, right? Likelihood is your degree that you've studied is not going to be put to use for some years. That's the sad truth of the current jobs market. That doesn't mean you have to do a job that you don't enjoy doing. There are plenty of jobs out there where you can do that doesn't relate directly to your degree, that you can put some of the learning, some of the transferable skills to use, but combine that with your passion. That's a really powerful proposition, right? So I took a pay drop to come from retail, where I've been a successful leader for a lot of years. I gave up a company car, gave up a lot of the security. I gave up 36 days a year holiday, and I came to work for a startup. And why? Because I believed in the same things Jimmy believed in, the same thing the business was built around. And that is worth more to me than anything in the world. You couldn't, like, I've had 3 job offers, right, since joining this business, because I'm active on LinkedIn. So there's a start for each and every one of you, right? I'm active on LinkedIn, and I've had 3 job offers as a result of that this year. I've never had job offers before. When I was applying for jobs, nobody ever got back to me. Not a thing. For 10 years, I've probably applied for jobs on and off. Not a single person got back to me. So anyway, I digress. So I started trying to think about what my why was. And the idea is that you think back to all the stories that mean something to you in your life. And you start writing down, brainstorming, what is it that emotionally made them important to you? And find the common theme amongst those emotions and reasons as to why they're important stories to you. So it could just be something personal, like you used to go and enjoy spending time with your gran. But can you name a specific time when you went to spend time with your gran that really stands out in your memory? And why does it stand out? And you start to see these common themes appearing. And I just did this in the process of one morning's walk, right? I'm out there walking, I'm thinking about police, I'm thinking about leadership opportunities. And what came to me was, like, I've got a passion for helping people do the right thing. And I've got a passion for inspiring people to be the best that they can actually be. And I thought, great, I've got 2 whys. So that happens. You can have 2 whys. But when you boil it down, actually, there's a more simple common element in the middle of all of that. And that is just inspiring people to make the right decisions that help them, whether it's helping them make right and wrong, preventing them making wrong decisions, helping them make the right decisions, whether it's pointing them in the right direction, whether it's developing them, whether it's coaching them. Ultimately, all I'm doing is helping people to be the best version that they can actually be. And for the longest time, I thought about those as 2 separate whys, and they're actually not. It's the same thing. Making money is great. That's not why you go to work, right? That's not why you go to work. It's something that happens because you go to work. And if you go to work because you're getting money, then you're going to hate your job. 5 years' time, you're going to hate your job. You're going to not be interested in it. You're going to move on, right? And let's, like, this is the real world. Not every job you're going to love. 100%. You're not. Take what you can from it, but be wary of that why, and look for that match in your future career. And that helps you in your own personal life as well as in your professional career. So, conscious we're coming up to time, so I'm going to try and wind this up a little bit there now. But, for me, understanding that was a real light bulb moment. I felt like, and I feel really cheesy saying this, right? I felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders, because I got the whole of the last 20 years actually start to make sense for me. Really, really powerful moment. And I got home and wrote, like, you have a look on my LinkedIn profile. I wrote an article that morning when I got home about finding my why, and that moment in time for me was just so powerful. And if anything, it's sort of confirmed my suspicion that, like, TMAC, at least for the time being, is where I'm going to stay, because that synergy that's there at a really, really visceral level, it's something I've never had before. So yeah, that for me is ultimately the power of finding your why. Is it can guide you in so many directions in your life, not just your career, but your personal choices, what sort of hobbies you take up, what your sports are, what you do with your time, who your friends are, who your partner is. So, for me, to you guys, you might not get the answer right now, but it's important to start thinking about what that why is, because it will inform your decisions going forward. Cool. I'll hand it back to you, Charlie.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. That was really, really good. I think it was a really good overview of like your own experience, but also quite a lot of stuff in there that's applicable to everyone, and like myself included as well. Like just sort of looking at your why before the role and kind of realizing that money isn't the reason you do it. It's the kind of outcome. I think it's really powerful as well. So I've got a couple of questions, but I'll kind of hand over to everyone else. If you've got any questions, let me know. Just kind of raise your hand either physically or do it through Zoom, and I'll pass over to yourselves. Or I'll just pick on you if you don't. No one asks any questions. So, Jenny, over to you.
Hi, I really enjoyed that. Thank you, Paul. What was the books that you recommended? I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch it.
So it was the Simon Sinek books. So I mean, there's loads on a similar topic, but I think for me, Simon's were the most powerful. So there's obviously the YouTube videos that go with it as well. But I think the first ones start with why, then there's find your why, and there's also a Leaders Eat Last, Why Leaders Eat Last book. The third one's kind of optional, but the first two for me, like if you read them in that order, it's really, really powerful combination.
Okay, great, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I think definitely on my reading list for the next few weeks, so we'll get to them as well. Sammy, over to you.
So not to oversimplify things, but if you could give yourself 15 years ago, like maybe one or two pieces as a piece of advice to find your why earlier, could you think of what they would be?
Do you know, I don't think I would have found it any earlier.
Yeah.
I think I found it when I was ready to find it. I wasn't aware that I even needed to look for it, if I'm honest. And that to me was an indicator that I'll find it when I'm ready and it'll come to me. And had I left 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to do the job that I'm doing now, because everything that I've done is a culmination of where I am. I never hated my job. Like, it just became a divergence of, I was aligned with that business at one point in time when I first started. Then as I moved on, my personal alignment moved further and further away, especially when the family came involved, then it just diverged quite a lot. So yeah, advice to my younger self in more general terms, I guess, would be to find, as well as understanding how people see you, you want to try and sort of round those edges off, because using an excuse of, well, this is who I am, isn't acceptable, right? You can be who you are, and that is unacceptable to other people. Okay, so sometimes you want to try and round that off and work on your personal weaknesses, your flaws in your character that you're aware of or that other people make you aware of. And that feedback's invaluable, right? Take it as people give you it. But there also comes a point where you need to be comfortable making your own stand. So you can't just go around trying to please everyone all the time. It's okay to annoy some people. It's okay to not be everybody's friend, as long as you understand where your soapbox is, where you stand on that, and where the line in the sand is that you will not cross, and sit behind that line. And if that offends people, well, good, fine. They're the people that you don't want to really mix with, and they're not aligned to you. But understanding that at an earlier age, I think that would have definitely helped me.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. I guess I've got a question myself as well on that, like broader sort of, you're speaking from experience to then develop a why, that you look back on things you've done and thought about why they meant something to you, so experiences that stand out. Is that something that you think someone can have at an early stage of their career, so say 22 out of university, or do you think that's something that only comes with time? I know you said before in Sammy's response about, okay, 15 years ago I wouldn't have even known about this, but say now we're aware of it, do you think we have enough experience to be able to pick out parts of our past that stand out to us, and we can actually define a why at this early stage?
Yeah, I think that's valid. I think it's a journey that you go on. I don't think it's something that you could tomorrow read that book, get it, and be able to implement it 100%. And even with my experience at 38, I mean, I make myself sound like an old man. I'm still not even middle-aged really, but you know, at 38, like I get it now, and I feel like I've almost got my why. I don't think it's 100%. I think there's more to add to it yet, and there's still a bit more journey to go on. But I think if you're aware of that, you can start to build towards that, and it can help inform your decisions that you make. So 100%, you're not going to get from A to Z straight away. But yeah, by reflecting on the choices that you've already made, the paths that you've already taken, I think it can help guide where you need to go in the future.
Awesome. So that kind of small steps at a time. Yeah, definitely. Himanshu, over to yourself.
I just have a very quick question for the Paul. Paul, like you were discussing your wisdom and experience that you have gained throughout the years. My thing is like you definitely got wisdom and like, you know, life experiences through education and through working all kind of the jobs, and now you're kind of like, you feel like I'm no more the person I used to be years ago. Do you feel like during the process you get to know definitely yourself, but you know the term called intuition, that okay, the inner voice in me is more mature now, I can rely on making my personal decisions, and then like at some point of time you get to trust it, that okay, it is not wrong, this is not, I mean, I knew it because it was my calling, but I realized after some time. Do you think like after doing, I mean, I don't know how to phrase it, but like in a way, as you go through the life and wisdom, you get to trust your intuition more?
Yeah, 100%.
Think so?
I think that goes in so much more than finding your why in your career. Like, there are still things that I can't quite articulate now that I just know intrinsically. So like, you know, a part of my job is finding opportunities for the business. And now and again, Jimmy gets a text message from me at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon going, dude, I've had an amazing conversation with someone. I know that there's an opportunity here. I can't quite see what it is, but I have a really good gut instinct about this person. I'm aligned with their energies. Like they match with our business. You need to come and speak with this person. Jimmy doesn't doubt me now when I say that, because he's experienced it firsthand. He knows when I say that I'm being serious, and that he can trust my judgment on that. And I think it's important to hear that inner voice. Whether you choose to act on it or not is different. And because if you don't hear that voice, how will you ever know whether you've been wrong or not? So you've got to listen to it in the first place, and then reflect on it afterwards. You know, you're not going to get every decision right. You're not going to, like, some people can from a very young age, some people can't. For me, absolutely, it's been a learning process as I go on, and I'm still nowhere near right all of the time. But there are some things that naturally come to me, and they will to you, that you will have a good gut instinct about, and you will just intrinsically know, because it's part of you. It's part of who you are and what you think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely makes sense.
Awesome. And then handing over to Helen, I think probably our last question.
You touched upon how you and Jimmy had an alignment of whys, but how would you, running on the assumption that you yourself know your why, how do you find alignment with like an employer if maybe they don't know their why? How do you know if you're aligned, if not both of you don't know?
That's a good question. I think it's definitely easier to find with people who are visionaries, if that makes sense. So Jimmy is a huge visionary, understands himself very well, understands the business very well. And obviously with a startup, I think that's something that he'd spent quite a lot of time thinking about and pondering. So that reflected in the conversation that we had. I think you're completely right. You know, that isn't always as easy to find as in that situation. That was, you know, a rare opportunity where somebody was really candid and transparent with me. I think my advice would be network. Understand your network, understand your friends, understand other people. Don't just sort of involve yourself with people who share a similar ideology to you. Get yourself out there and understand how other people think. Have conversations intentionally with people who don't match your own ideology. Have those relationships, build those relationships now, so that you understand more of the crowd around you. And then when the opportunity comes along, you'll have a better benchmark to test that against, so that you get a general feel for where people sit within that. It's not always going to be that easy, 100%. But I think as you experiment with that, as you grow and you develop, then you'll start to get a better feel for it. Like Jimmy never once voiced to me the why of the business. I just got it because I didn't understand my own why at the time. It just felt right. So, you know, to a certain extent, there's that gut instinct that you've got to listen to. But the more you understand your own why, the easier it'll be to spot similar whys as you go about doing what you're doing. Does that help?
Okay, thank you. That helps, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Paul. I think that's a really good summary of like Himanshu's question about intuition, how that plays a part as well. So yeah, really, really good talk. Really enjoyed that. Some really good questions as well, guys. Thank you for contributing. I think we're going to end on time this week. Wow, what a day. So I'll end the recording. I'll upload the video as well, and then put all the kind of links in the video description as well, and probably get across to you guys via email. But I'll put Paul's link in the chat for anyone who wants to connect with him on LinkedIn. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. And I'll end the recording